Welcome to this explainer. Listen, if you've ever bitten into a jalapeno or maybe accidentally dumped way too much hot sauce on your dinner, you know exactly what happens next, right? You get that intense rush, your eyes start watering, and there's that desperate scramble for absolutely anything to drink. But here's the fascinating truth we're going to unpack today. Spicy food isn't actually burning your mouth. It's literally hacking your heat sensors. I want you to picture this. You take a massive bite of a fresh chili pepper, and you instantly get that visceral, almost painful sensation spreading all across your tongue. But I want to pose a direct question to you here. What is physically happening in that exact moment? Is there an actual physical fire inside your mouth? Like, is the tissue of your tongue literally sustaining a heat burn? Okay, let's dive right into this, because it highlights a huge, almost universal misconception. Spicy is not a temperature. Think about it. We use the word hot to describe a chili pepper, and we use that exact same word to describe a boiling pot of water. But physically, they are completely different phenomena. If you stuck a thermometer directly into a spicy pepper, it would literally just read room temperature. There is absolutely zero physical heat present in that food. So if there's no heat, what exactly is causing us all that pain? Section 1. The chemical culprit inside the pepper. Well, if we cut that chili pepper open and zoom way in, we find our real infiltrator. Capsaicin is the main compound that gives chili peppers their burning sensation. I want you to imagine this as a tiny, glowing, incredibly oily molecule. It's essentially a chemical defense mechanism produced by the plant. So when you chew on a pepper, you are actually releasing millions of these oily little molecules straight into your mouth. Section 2. Hacking your heat sensors, a biological heist. Now, the primary target of this biological heist is something called the TRPV1 receptor. This receptor sits right there on the membrane of the nerve cells in your mouth. Now, its entire evolutionary job, literally its whole reason for existing, is to warn your brain about painful, dangerous physical heat. If you take a sip of boiling hot soup, it's those TRPV1 receptors that scream out in pain to stop you from burning yourself. But importantly, it's also highly sensitive to chemical irritation. And this brilliantly illustrates how the exact biological pathway designed to protect us ends up being used right against us. So the capsaicin molecules reach the nerve endings in your mouth and they bind directly to those TRPV1 receptors. Capsaicin basically triggers heat receptors perfectly. It fits right into that TRPV1 receptor like a key into a lock. The crazy part is, the receptor is totally blind to the fact that this is just an oily plant chemical. All it knows is that its alarm system has been tripped. So, the absolutely crucial point here is understanding the exact biological mechanism of this hack. Let's trace it step by step. Step 1, the capsaicin binds to the TRVP1 receptor. The lock is picked. Step 2, a panic signal fires off, traveling rapidly up your nerve pathways directly to your brain. And finally, step 3, the brain receives the signal and interprets it based entirely on what that specific receptor is supposed to do. Your brain goes, whoa, TRVP1 is firing? That means we are experiencing dangerous heat. And that brings us to the grand illusion. Your mouth feels hot. The actual temperature hasn't risen even a fraction of a degree. Your brain is entirely confused by this chemical signal. Believing your mouth is quite literally on fire, your brain triggers a massive physiological response to cool you down. It makes you sweat, it makes your nose run, it makes your eyes tear up. Your body is desperately trying to extinguish a fire that simply does not exist outside of a really clever chemical trick. Section 3. Real versus chemical heat. Contrasting reality. Let's actually do a side-by-side comparison here to really anchor this concept. On the left side, we have a cup of steaming hot tea. Now, when you drink this, the actual physical high temperature activates your heat sensors. That is real thermal energy. But on the right, we have our chili pepper. When you eat this, there's absolutely zero thermal energy, but the capsaicin chemically activates those exact same heat sensors. The end result in your brain is completely identical, but the physical cause, completely different.
Section 4. How to stop it. Finding a solution.
Okay, so what's the first thing most people do when they eat something way too spicy? They immediately reach for a giant glass of ice water. But water actually fails completely at removing the capsaicin. Why? Well, because as we established earlier, capsaicin is an oily compound. And as we all know, oil and water just do not mix. The water basically just washes over the capsaicin, often spreading that oily chemical even further around your mouth and making the burning sensation way worse. Instead, you need milk or yogurt. Dairy products contain fats and proteins that can actually dissolve and bind to the oily capsaicin, literally lifting it right off those TRV1 receptors. So your key takeaway for the next time you sit down for a spicy meal is really simple. Milk works better than water. By understanding the underlying chemistry of that capsaicin molecule, you can effectively disarm the biological hack. You aren't cooling down a fire, right? You are chemically washing away an intruder.
Section 5. A Nobel Prize Discovery, Scientific Legacy.
Now, studying how chili peppers trick our mouths actually revolutionized our entire understanding of the human nervous system. A scientist named David Julius used the capsaicin from chili peppers specifically to identify and map out the TRPV1 receptor and figure out exactly how we sense heat. And this wasn't just some neat piece of bar trivia. This discovery was so monumentally important to the field of neuroscience that it earned him, along with Artem Pataputian, the 2021 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. A literal Nobel Prize, all unlocked by figuring out why a pepper feels hot.
Which leaves us with this final, really remarkable thought. Your brain is an absolute supercomputer, for sure, but it relies on chemical signals to tell it what is happening in the outside world. And as the chili pepper proves, if you can mimic those chemical signals, you can completely manipulate human perception. So, spicy food is proof that the brain does not only respond to reality. Sometimes chemistry can fool it. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I really hope you never look at a bottle of hot sauce the exact same way again.